Hey everybody, thanks for checking out our video. I'm Josh Robbins, and of course to my left I have Brent Allen from Amplify.
Good morning.
Morning. So we're super excited to be coming to you today. We've got some great updates, Brent. We've got some new information about the PPP program. A new bill's going through the House. Got approved by the House. Got approved by the Senate. Expected to be signed by the President later today. That really changes things for the better for the PPP program that we've got coming out. Just to remind everybody, today is Friday, June the 5th, and we want to make sure we put that date on there because this information is always changing. If you want to stay on top of all the information that's coming out, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You can always email us at connect@amplifygrowth.com. Brent, we're going to go through a lot of information here, and we're going to have some detail on some slides and stuff. And just want to let everybody know that this content that we're going to provide today is also going to be attached in the description of the YouTube video, so you can download a copy of this PowerPoint to get that information for later on. So tell us what's going on, Brent. What happened this week, and what are we looking at right now?
Well, I just first want to say, as frustrated as I was with the Congress, with the SBA and Treasury early on with this program and all the issues that it had, I've really been delighted to see that Congress and the Treasury have everything that's come out over the last, I would say, 4 weeks has been very pro-business, trying to get back to the roots of what this program was supposed to be, which was a grant to push money into businesses' hands so they could keep their employees employed and stay healthy. And so this is another huge step in that direction. So I don't know if we want to just go ahead and start jumping in, Josh. We've got some slides. We'll talk about each one of the facets of this, but all of it's really good news for business owners. The actual title of the bill is HR 7010. They are deeming this, if you'll hear it in the news, it'll be talked about the Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act. And we've got a link right there to the bill if you want to actually read it. So, Josh mentioned the House approved it last week. The Senate was able to approve it by unanimous vote late Wednesday night. It's on the president's desk and expected to be signed into law today.
So excellent. Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
So some of the provisions, right? Let's talk about the details of this. And we know this makes the program a little bit more favorable, makes things a little thing. What are some of the things they did in this to help make this a lot more feasible for people to really take advantage of?
Well, so one of the things, we'll get to it in just a minute, but they really try to take this back to pushing it towards being a grant, which was the initial intent. But this first slide, one of the first provisions in it, we talk about if this turns into a loan, if you're not able to achieve 100% forgiveness, they went ahead and extended the term of that loan from 2 years to 5 years, which is very favorable, and that'll remain at 1% interest. So in the worst case scenario, if a business is not able to spend this money within the time frame that is allotted, they'll end up with a very favorable, much longer term note to pay back.
Excellent. And one good note about these slides, just to tell everybody, we've got a note on there that says if signed into law. That's because at the time we're making this video, the president has not actually signed the bill into law. There's every expectation that this is going to be going through. And so, there's still that small chance that something doesn't happen. But it looks like this is a done deal. This is going through. But that's what that little caveat, that's what that means, because it's technically not there yet, but every expectation is that it's going to be there as of today.
Yeah, in the House, it went through 174 to 1, and it went through unanimously to the Senate. So strong bipartisan support. It is a certainty that the president will sign it, but we did put that in just to be as accurate as possible.
Okay, so loan gets extended. If it, whatever's not forgiven goes to a loan, goes to 5 years. The next component is, I think, a really big game changer for everybody here. Talk to us about the covered period.
Yeah, so the cover period, this is when you have heard over and over, you got 8 weeks to spend this money, and there's some different calculations there, but bottom line is the PPP program gave you 10 weeks worth of money, and you had to go spend it in 8 weeks, and it was very difficult, especially for businesses that were not able to open up the day that they got that PPP money. And so, this is just tremendous. They have extended that 8-week period now to 24 weeks. So they went 3 times as long. And this really, unless your business has had a significant layoff, something really game changing has happened. This ought to allow for almost everyone to achieve 100% forgiveness through just paying their employees. So this absolutely changes the game. It's very welcome. I'm excited about this change.
Yeah, and that's great because we were hearing that from a lot of our clients who were really worried about, could they spend this money? Could they get it all forgiven in that tight time window of that 8 weeks? And so for them to give that little bit of leniency and as here, it means that everybody can take advantage of the funds that are out there. It's fantastic.
I mean, honestly, guys, I was hopeful that they would do something here. I would have never dreamed that they would go all the way to 24 weeks.
Yeah, that's excellent.
That's a huge extension.
Yeah.
Big deal.
So another big thing that we've been hearing from a lot of clients in industries across the board, and going into our next point here, was the split where 75% of the loan had to be used for payroll costs, and you could use the additional 25% of the loan for other qualifying things that's on there. This proved to be a little bit challenging for certain industries and certain businesses that had different mixes of labor versus other expenses and things. So tell us what they did on this front to sort of help out on that side.
Well, I mean, frankly, I think this is less important because they went so far with the extension to 24 weeks with payroll. But, certain industries, I mean, you talk about the farming, agricultural industry, the wage versus some of the other costs to operate is very different than traditional businesses. So they actually took that threshold from 75 down to 60. So at this point, you can spend up to 40% of that loan, still get forgiveness on non-payroll costs.
That's excellent. So we talk about, maintaining full-time employees and what's out there in terms of, the whole point of these packages was for businesses to keep people employed, to keep them on the payroll and working. And we know that there are a lot of businesses that had already done some layoffs. They made some different moves in terms of controlling their expenses with their workforce and with their payroll. But a lot of this got taken into account with the original bill. Talk to us about what they did in terms of the full-time employee requirements, what was originally in the guidance, and where they've shifted that to sort of help with those safe harbor aspects of this.
Yeah, to go back and just a really high level, to get forgiveness, the big pieces of the puzzle were that you had to spend the money within the time period. That time period is now changed from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. That you had to spend it in the right places. So it used to be 75% payroll, now it's 60% payroll. The last piece was they wanted you to maintain your full-time equivalent employees. And so they prescribed a reduction based on average full-time employees over your covered period. But they also provided a safe harbor as of June the 30th. If you were able to restore your full-time employment by June 30th, then you were no harm, no foul. Well, in this bill, they've moved that from June 30th all the way till December 31st of this year. And so that should help a lot of employers. Again, they're still back on the ramp up. I know here in North Carolina, we have some eased restrictions, but restaurants are still not able to operate at 100%. I don't know when that's going to happen. So for industries like that really June 30th was going to be pushing it for them to get back to their full-time equivalent. This is a big help.
All right. And one really important note in here, we've got a line down here in the bottom, is that they came out and said that, if a business is able to still work everything and maintain that June 30th, if that works better for them, they can still stick to those dates and the program still functions properly. Right?
Yeah, what they did there is they didn't want to hurt anybody that had been planning for the last 2 months to try to hit the original deadlines. So if it's not to your benefit to extend to December 31st, you can keep the original deadline.
Excellent. And some of the things, going into our next slide here, some of the things that we have been looking at too is, there's a lot of different scenarios and circumstances that are around there. So some of the new provisions that they've come out with this bill is to put in some different exceptions to those full-time employee requirements there to try and ease some of the pressure that falls on that, because there's some circumstances that just can't be avoided or whatever. So talk to us a little bit about those exceptions to the full-time employee requirements.
Sure. So I mean, there was a lot of noise on how this interacted with the enhancement of unemployment benefits, and a lot of business owners were either fearful or actually experiencing employees that would not come back based on everything else that was going on. And so they came out and they did a few things. Number one, if they're unable to, if you're unable to rehire an employee, if you make them the offer that to bring them back to the same position for the same pay, and they decline, they don't count against you in the FTE count. This is not on this slide, but it came out earlier that if you have to terminate somebody for cause, and you can document that doesn't count against you on these FTE requirements. If you are able to show that you've lost somebody for any reason and you can't hire somebody of equal skills for the equal money, then again you can they won't count against you for full-time employees. And then one of the more interesting things that came out of this was a provision that says if you're able to demonstrate that you can't get back to pre-COVID levels by December 31st from a revenue standpoint, that you won't be dinged for that as well. And so there will certainly be more clarification as to what the burden of proof for that will be that will come out over time. But again, this is all signals by the government to say, hey, we want you guys to employ as many people as possible, but we also want you to be healthy and really protect the business and move forward and be healthy for a long time. And so we're going to be reasonable in how we measure all this.
Yeah, which is just fantastic. And it's a big game changer. Again, all this stuff is pushing everything in that favorable way so that businesses can continue to operate as they've been and really put themselves in a position where they can really take advantage of this program that's out there. So one other component that was put into this thing is revolving federal employer payroll taxes. So walk us through that component, that piece of it.
Sure. The CARES Act, which originally put the PPP program into action, also had a couple other provisions. One of them was you were able to defer your federal employer taxes 6.5% of your payroll, and you were able to do that through the end of the year, and then that be paid back over the following 2 years. But the original bill prohibited you from using both the PPP forgiveness amounts and taking advantage of this deferral. And in this legislation, they went ahead and cleared that up, that was not their intent. You are able to make that deferral and participate in the PPP program.
Excellent. So sounds like all good things. And I don't want to, obviously you don't ever want to make guaranteed absolute claims, but it sounds like they've paved the way and made it very easy for businesses to reasonably operate in the way they need to operate during these times, and also set them up in a position where it's very, very achievable for them to get 100% forgiveness on these loans. And we shouldn't see a lot of this being pushed over into loans. They should all be converted into those grants that we've got out there.
Yeah, I mean, they took a survey several weeks ago, and they were saying that over 50% of business owners were not expecting to get 100% forgiveness. I think with this bill, you're going to see just the vast majority get 100% forgiveness, with a few exceptions. But everybody ought to breathe a sigh of relief, in my opinion. Obviously, you need to talk to your attorney and your accountant to make sure you're documenting things the right way. But this really is great news. Everybody should be really excited about it.
That's awesome. We could use some good news. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world right now, so we could sure use this. If you guys have any questions at all, you want Amplify, reach out to us and see how we can help your organization to not only survive right now, but continue to grow and prosper. Hit that email address at the bottom of the screen down there, connect@amplifygrowth.com. Brent, thank you very much for the information, as always. Very relevant and very helpful. Reminding you guys to stay kind to one another, and we thank you very much for watching. Talk to you soon.
Great weekend.